listening to the Educated Cowgirl Podcast, Season 2, Episode 10. Hey Cowgirls! Happy 4th of July! We are not only going into a very celebratory weekend for America and myself, as the day before this episode came out was my birthday, or July 2nd for those that are listening later, but I have a very fun and exciting episode for you this week. We all love beautifully colored horses, and I think Roan horses have a special place in our hearts as being unique and beautiful with their eye-catching appearance. Today, I'm talking with some returning guests to the podcast to bring you some new research they found and are still discovering all about Roan horses and their genetic makeup. Christa Lafayette and Simiele from Etalon share some incredibly fun and fascinating information about this project and what they have discovered so far. If you are a color genetics nerd like me, you will love this episode. I had so much fun talking to them about so many things on this episode, from the different alleles they have found and have interpreted in Roan horses, adding Roan testing to their DNA test packages, to discussing well-known Roan horses and what makes them unique in color and performance, and even a little about Roan color found in dogs. There is still so much more to learn about this horse color, but having this research published and talking about it, it is an important step and I believe will have a huge impact on the equine industry. So without further delay, let's get into my conversation with Christa and Laura. Hey, and welcome to the Educated Cowgirl Podcast, hosted by yours truly. My name is Abby Carpenter, and I am a cowgirl and equestrian through and through. I started this podcast wanting to make more of an impact in the equine industry. That's why I am making it my mission to help promote the industry to the public through sharing my love for horses through education and bringing other experts and professionals onto the podcast with me to discuss important topics that impact the horse community. So whether you are a crazy horse lady like me, want to learn more about horses, or want to learn more about the industry, you've come to the right place. On this podcast, we will be talking about ownership, horsemanship, fitness, faith, breeds, and so much more. We believe that it doesn't matter what type of saddle you ride in or the breed of horse you may ride. We all contribute to this community to make it great, and that there is always something to learn from the back of your horse. So grab a coffee and get ready to take some notes, and let's get started. This is the Educated Cowgirl Podcast. Okay, so welcome back, everyone, and welcome back to my returning guests. We are coming at you with a very exciting announcement and kind of a bonus episode. Thank you guys again for thinking of me to help you share this exciting new research you found in color genetics and to talk about all the new things you're introducing soon.
Well, thanks for having us. And this is so much fun to talk about. I know that we're giggling about podcasts. All of us love our podcasts.
Yeah.
So I understand that your listeners, they're whining because you're not doing true crime. Is that true?
No. I mean, maybe if a horse crime story popped up, I'd put it on. But for right now, I'm sticking to just educating people.
Well, we can make this like a crime podcast. I mean, there's mystery, there's intrigue, there's passion. It has all the elements. We can do that.
There's suspense. We have suspense.
We'll see how we'll work it in.
All right. Fair enough.
All right. All right. So for those that have not listened to your first episode, can you go ahead and reintroduce yourselves, briefly talk about how you're involved in the equine industry, what you do, and then a new fun fact about yourself?
Oh, you threw me with that last one. Okay, so I'm Christa Lafayette. I'm the CEO and founder of Etalon and also Alpha Dog. We can go down that road in a minute. And my background is in biotechnology. And my expertise is around surgical and behavioral models in preclinical medicine for translation to humans. Mm-hmm. And I am horse obsessed, and I love dogs, and science and animals is the best.
Yeah. Nice.
Fun fact about me. Let's see. I'm allergic to sugar substitute. I'm one of those weird people who can't have diet anything, which suits me just fine. But everywhere I go, people try to give me diet sodas. I don't know if they're trying to tell me I have a problem that I need to be drinking diet, or if they're trying to piss me off or trying to kill me. So there's your crime. People are
It's
trying to
okay.
get diet drinks.
Now you have a new true crime outlet.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, actually my mom actually has the same allergy. She gets really sick off of the sugar substitute, and which is crazy because her parents only really drank Diet Pepsi when they were older, so it was weird.
It's weird.
Yeah, it's a freaky thing, and most time people don't believe me, but that's all right.
Yeah. All right.
So I'm Laura Simiele. I am our sales, marketing, other hat wearer here at Etalon and Alpha Dog. Born and bred in the thoroughbred world, breeding and racing, horse obsessed from before I could walk or talk or even knew that I was horse obsessed. An itch for science, a passion for business, and that's what brought us all together. And a fun fact about me, I can drink the diet sodas, but I'm actually allergic to a different preservative called potassium sorbate that is in so many things. So I can't have things like orange juice unless it's freshly squeezed. So
Interesting.
go figure.
Interesting. All right. So I think the best place for us to start is from the beginning. So roan horses have a long history, as we know, in many different breeds, mostly seen with quarter horses, but also they can be found in draft breeds, Appaloosas, warm bloods, and more, as well as some variations are considered to have spiritual significance, such as blue roans have been associated with Native American traditions symbolizing thunder and power, which is kind of cool. However, until now, there still has been a lot we don't know about these uniquely colored horses. That is where you and your team at Etalon have stepped in. Can you talk more about how the idea of this research project began? What were your goals with it? And then for those who may not know much about this color, can you briefly describe what the roan color is?
Sure. So first, everyone knows that we're doing tons of research, right? We're obsessed with like health and performance stuff, even personality, behavioral traits. So why mess with roan? It's pretty straightforward because our clients want it. They have asked and asked and asked, and boy, when they want something, they just don't stop. And so roan, as you know, is this really cool pattern. It's a lot of white ticking throughout the whole body against the base coat color, except for their head and like their lower legs. Their head and lower legs tend to remain solid. So it's this really kind of crazy and beautiful thing all at the same time. It's super popular. And people who breed want to know if their horse is going to pass this on, right? So they want to test. And they kept saying, oh, well, such and such test for roan. Why don't you offer that test? Well, here's the dirty secret behind roan testing up until now. None of it was peer-reviewed and published. So we don't really know what they were testing for, right? And if it's not peer-reviewed and published, A, we don't know where to start because they're not telling us what they're doing. And B, it's pretty risky. There's a standard that should be followed. Anything that's like involving science or genetics or scientific or medical genetic testing, anything like that, really needs to be peer reviewed and published. It's a standard we should stick to. Publications and professional review of what you're doing by people who are unbiased and they don't have anything to gain except to validate what you've done from a scientific standpoint is really like the least you can do, right? Offering color tests. I'm not trying to sound slanderous. Like offering color tests is somewhat harmless as long as they're not related to health consequences. And most of them are not. But let's say you're testing for like lethal white overo or just even a straight up health variant. From our standpoint, it's unethical to offer or mandate testing for something that's a secret. In other words, it's not been carefully vetted by unbiased professionals who've reviewed the study and said, yes, this is a real study. It makes sense. The science is solid. Go forth and conquer, right? So we're pretty uptight about that. So literally for years, we would not offer roan testing until we understood what it is. And then we vowed to publish it. And that's what we've done. And we're not done.
Yeah.
There's still going to be some roan horses out there. This has happened in the past with whatever tests are out there where they submitted a horse sample and the animal standing there is clearly Roan and the test comes back negative. Why is that happening? Well, because whatever it is they're testing for didn't cover whatever mutation that is, right? Or that allele or that haplotype. But because you don't know what it is they're testing for, you don't know why your Roan horse tests negative for Roan. So part of this adventure has been finding that there are multiple alleles, different types of Roan out there. Do we know what the actual causative change is in the gene that absolutely causes Roan? We don't. We just know that it's contained in these alleles that are passed down from your parents. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's fascinating. I love what you said about you were hesitant to actually start testing for it until you knew more about it, which I think is really smart.
Yeah, until somebody else who's got no interest in your business or does not profit from it, until they said, yeah, this is a thing, we really shouldn't be doing that, right? It's like I said, it's unethical. And yeah, we want to spoil our clients out of their minds. We love to do that. We want to give them what they want, but we have to deliver it in the right way. It's a really important thing to do. So sorry for the wait, but we delivered.
Yeah. And you don't really want to release anything, any new research without being able to back it up, and you don't really want anything going wrong with it. So
that's right. Because what if something does go wrong? You have to have due diligence you fall back on and say, well, we made a reasonable assumption. We proved it out in the study. There was this other thing that nobody had any way to know about. And that can totally happen. But you got to do everything you can to make sure that you minimize that chance.
Yeah. All right. So, as you've mentioned, there are many different alleles of Roan, and the Roan pattern is a dominant gene in horses. But specifically, you're testing for two different types as of right now, RN1 and RN2, or Roan1 and Roan2. What are some of the major similarities or differences you can share with us between these two alleles that you've found so far, and then what you've learned from them? So
far, Roan1 and Roan2, one of the things people like to ask is, what are the differences in phenotypes? The short answer is we haven't seen any yet. We don't actually see any major differences in the phenotype. Roan1 looks like Roan2, but to be fair, no one's done an actual study on that, right? So no one has taken a cohort of 500 horses that are Roan1 and a cohort of 500 horses that are Roan2 and compared them side by side and done maybe some color percentage analysis or anything. So far, we don't see any differences physically, right? Where it exists, there are definite differences. So Roan1 was found originally in Norikers, and we find it in gypsies, pony breeds, drafts, warm bloods, some stock horses, Mustangs, some quarter horses. We do find Roan1 in the red man lines and in paint horses, while Roan2 is primarily found in quarter horses. The metallic cat lines and the royal blue boon, Pepto Boone small lines, they tend to carry Roan2. They appear to be similar in function and heredity. We think because of the spread through the population, we think Roan1 is the older mutation.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, that would make sense.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay, so you kind of answered this, but so these alleles, can they tell like if they're going to be a bay Roan or a blue Roan or a red Roan, or no?
Not the allele itself. The allele itself just indicates that there will be a white ticking in the coat. But what we can do is we can just look at the coat color summary and it'll tell us, for example, if foal has, if it's homozygous black, it's got 2 copies of black and it's got a copy of RN2, well, there's your blue Roan, right? And our algorithms are trained to say that. And they're getting better every day on labeling those animals. We have to be careful because not everybody speaks horse coat color. Yeah. So we can break it down. Or you can get really crazy, right? You can say the horse has 2 copies of red, a copy of dun, a copy of cream, a copy of Roan2, and splash white 5. Yeah. Well, then you could say you got a Roan Dunalito splash.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure he's going to get that.
Yeah. And then I just thought of this. When you have horses that they don't have like as much ticking, or they aren't as frosted as some others, like they maybe have a little bit on the top of their tail or like on their belly or something, Have you been able to test and see if they have maybe less of the Roan 1 or Roan 2 gene, or can you say anything about those horses?
Not yet. So far, we don't have enough data and enough clear photographs and documentation to see any differences in what we call penetration, how
Okay.
much Roan they have. And to take a step back as an example, those of you who are coat color crazy, you know that you can have splashed white 1 or splashed white 2, and you can either have like a partially bald face and a blue eye,
Mm-hmm.
or like a tiny little diamond or nothing. And that's dependent on the degree of penetration, right? And so Roan hasn't been studied well enough yet to understand that. And then, of course, there's Roan 1, Roan 2. Should I let the secret out, Laura?
I mean, if you want to, it's gonna come up one way or the other, right?
Well,
Yeah, spill the tea. Spill it.
so there's Roan 3. We're releasing it today.
Well, this episode will come out first week of July, so
Perfect. That's about how long it'll take the virus to go, right? As soon as we
we're
release it on
releasing it
Facebook. So yeah, there's Roan 3. And we think there might be others as well. But as far as going back to what you're saying,
Mhm.
we can see the line differences, the lineage differences. We
Mhm.
can't yet see penetration differences.
Okay. And then without spilling too much, what can you tell me about Roan 3?
Roan 3, we found in a totally different line. They tend to be horses where the ones that I talked about, where maybe they did a test with another lab and it came back negative, even though they were clearly Roan horses. We're finding that the offspring of VS code red, VS code blue, those animals are Roan 3 around the lab. When we were exploring this, we found Roan 3 in a horse called, I'm blanking, my brain is not working. Suddenly on the Rocks. Suddenly on the Rocks, right? So this horse is named Sudden on the Rocks or Suddenly on the Rocks. And everybody ran around the lab going, oh, Suddenly Roan. So that's Roan 3, Suddenly Roan. We thought that was kind of catchy and fun. So, and we haven't yet really discovered the breadth of Roan 3, where all it is. So we're in the process there. But
Yeah.
but is it a variant? Is it an allele we can test for? Yes. Are we releasing it? Yes. Is it published on the web? Yes. And it should be a lot of fun to explore it.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. All right. So Roan horses can be some of the most talented horses as well in many different disciplines. I know for me specifically, I see a lot of Roan horses in cow horse,
Yeah.
ranch sorting, cutting, rein cow horse. Do you think that these alleles contribute to Roan horses' performance or help show what disciplines they possibly will be successful in, or does it only really affect their color?
So that's a really interesting question. So my gut response is always going to be no one studied that yet. Okay, so that's my gut response, right?
Yeah.
On the surface, the obvious answer is, well, right now we know it's a color, and we know it's a color that is coming from a very specific line of horses, and they're really well known for their performance. So you could say something like, well, metallic cat, I'm just reaching here. I don't actually know what metallic cat's genomic testing is right off the top of my head. You could say metallic cat or hellcat is homozygous positive for a Roan variant, right? A Roan allele, and therefore will pass it off to 100% of offspring. So let's say metallic cat sires a bunch of offspring. They're all Roan the first generation are all Roan, and then the second generation, depending on the mare, are maybe half Roan. You would then have to go and look at these animals and have the same rider in the same barn, eating the same things, competing in the same arena to see if the non-Roan were outperformed by the Roan, right? So there's sort of your baseline. Could it be that the Roan coat color genotype is linked to some mystery thing that helps them perform better?
Yeah.
Maybe it's possible, right? Maybe it comes on a block with a bunch of things. Could it be something similar to, well, let's look at something like Herda. So Herda is a variant you will see in a lot of high performing cow horses, right? Is it because Herda makes them better at what they do?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it popular sire effect? The animal that carried this sired a lot of babies. It could be both. Herda is an Ehlers-Danlos family thing. It's a collagen disorder, and that makes the joints and tissues a little bit more flexible. So it's possible that animals carrying Herda don't get hurt as often at a young age, right? Making them better performers initially.
Yeah.
Does Roan have anything to do with collagen? I doubt it, but you don't know what it's connected to, right?
Yeah.
So the answer remains probably it's popular sire effect, but it is possible that it's linked to something else.
Yeah, no, that's good. All right, so you've talked a little bit about a couple of these horses, but you have looked them up, a lot of these up. They're really well established Roan horses in our industry. Allspice, Call Me Mitch, Metallic Cat, hashtag, the list can go on forever. And as you've already said his name once, but I think I will mention him again since he's pretty famous right now. VS Code Red. These are just a small example of the versatility we see in Roan horses. Can you dive a little more into some of the specifics you found with these horses, what they've done for the industry, and then like talk more about the alleles you've found in them?
Yeah, so I can only talk about the ones that are public in the Build a Horse app, right? Because their owners have chosen to share that information. But there are some definite patterns we see. There are certain patterns, obviously, if an animal has a clean bill of health, that's a baseline, right? You want them to be able to be healthy and reproduce and survive their discipline. But with respect to speed and temperament and gait, there's a lot going on there. And we find differences in each horse dependent on what it is that they are doing. A favorite one of mine to talk about is Allspice, because Allspice is really unusual.
Yeah.
Most quarter horses that we test, muscle type wise, will carry 2 copies of a variant for sprint. It's the mutation, it's an insertion, and you call it sprint type. So they're larger musculature, they're faster 0 to 60 at a younger age than their wild type cousins who would have 2 copies of what we call endurance type, where they're a little more refined, a little less muscle, a little longer to mature, but they can go for miles. They're not fast, short distance sprinters like most quarter horses.
Right.
But Allspice has a unique genetic disposition. She has 1 copy of sprint and 1 copy of endurance. And because these variants are codominant, that means she has both capabilities. She is fast in short bursts, and she can fast, which might contribute to her incredible success.
Yes.
Right? But there's a second thing that's unusual about her. She has 1 copy of what we call curiosity and 1 copy of vigilance. And many of our horse people describe those animals. They're not the easiest animals. They tend to be fairly choosy about who they like, don't like, but they're described as clever and a little bit passive aggressive, and also pretty darn good performers because they have enough curiosity to be amenable and try new things, but they also have that vigilance, which kind of we seem to think equates to obsession, OCD, super focus, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I wouldn't say that Allspice is perfect for your 12-year-old because she's probably a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
But she, in the right hands or no hands at all, I kind of suspect she doesn't need you. She can do it.
Yeah.
Is a very, very high performer. But to reproduce her is difficult because she has variation in her genetic code in 2 very specific places, which means if you bred her to a sire just like her, same genes, you wouldn't get that same outcome.
No.
You'd only get it, less than 50% of the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
and
it's a bit of a trick.
Yeah, that's so fascinating because I actually, when I was working on this script outline, I looked up her YouTube video from last year, I think, from the Performance Horseman with Aiden was riding her. And I was just like, when you were talking about how like the obsession OCD, she is like locked in on that cow, like it's not going anywhere.
Right.
So
looks like she's gonna eat it. Yeah, that's true. Whereas if you look at like Call Me Mitch, Call Me Mitch is a different kind of horse, right? And probably he's got 2 copies of Curiosity, so he's probably a little bit more amenable. He's probably
Yeah.
more willing, to let certain people walk up to him. But he's got 2 copies of Endurance, which is also not very common in the quarter horses. Is it more common in the cow horses? Maybe. We're
Yeah.
looking at that now. But he can go and go and go, which is kind of what you'd want in a ranch horse.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, exactly. That's why he did so well at World's Greatest Horseman.
Mhm.
And whereas I feel like, we know Rein Cow Horse, they have to be really good at all three: cutting,
Yep.
cow horse, and reining. And where Allspace would lack in like the reining side, because she was like, I need something to focus on other than my rider. Call Me Mitch, he can kind of go a little bit longer. So
Yeah. Yeah, he can go and go and go. She might outpace him in the immediate short distances. She might be quicker than
Yeah.
he is. But he can go and go, and they're neither one of them is wrong.
No.
They're perfect for what they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
what we're trying to explain to people is that genotypes are not good or bad necessarily, except for the obvious, like really detrimental disorders. They are particular for certain talents. So if you're a trainer, let's say you're a top reining trainer or a top cutting horse trainer, the genotype you would choose for your professional hardcore animal is probably totally different than you might give to your amateur client.
Yes.
And then both of you are happy because both of you win at your level and can handle what you have, right?
Yes.
So both $1 million horses, just totally different genotypes.
Yes. And that's what makes horses so incredible, is they foundationally may have the same ancestors, but the way that they are born is so cool.
Yeah, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you've got siblings, you're not exactly like your siblings. Same parents, different talents, different looks, different size, different attitude. It's a thing, right?
Yeah.
The trick is in the random. What did you get from your parents? And it's not the same. You can combine the same parents over and over and you'll get different results.
Yep. My sister was blessed with the singing gene and I was not. So
yeah, no one wants to hear me sing. Don't worry, you're in good company.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So with all this new really cool research that you've come out with, you also are launching something, and we alluded to it before with your programs. Can you talk more about what's coming up or launching soon? Maybe even as this episode comes out next week. What are your hopes for this promo or program, especially within this Roan horse space? And then any other information you want to add?
Okay, well, I already outed Roan 3. So that surprise is over. Everybody knows now. The whole world is savvy. They get it. We also knew that as soon as we let these Roans out of the gate, everybody's going to want them. So we went ahead and added them on to all the pro packages. So you're welcome. They're there. Yeah. And then, of course, they're going to be our color breeders. And you know who you are. And don't feel bad because everybody says, I don't care about color. I'm telling you, it's a lie. They all care about color. Yeah. Doesn't matter what they say. They actually care about color. So for you color people, we went ahead and went, all right, here's an ultimate color package for now. I don't know how long we're going to do that. But we knew if we didn't, we would be sad because color people want what they want.
Yes.
And they will not stop. So we just went ahead and did that. I don't know if anybody knows we're also doing dogs. And yes, there's Roan dogs, different kind, but it's there. We have this whole dog platform we've rolled out. And we're going to start crossing over the things between the dogs and the horses, the features.
Oh, cool.
So we would love it if some horse people with their dogs would go over there and play around and decide what features they want us to bring to the horse world. One of those things might be the AI generator. And that's not artificial insemination, not that kind of AI, different kind of AI. We need t-shirts that say not that kind of AI. What we're doing is taking the genetics of the dog that we run and feeding it into an AI algorithm, and then it generates an image of what it thinks that dog should look like, which is super duper fun, highly entertaining, and we're learning stuff from it.
Yeah.
About 85% of the time, it's spot on. Get it? Spot on. Anyway, about 85% of the time, it generates almost exactly what the dog looks like, regardless of breed mix, which is sort of interesting. I didn't actually think that was going to work that well. And about 10 to 15% of the time, it spits out something else entirely, which we initially thought, oh, that's not going to work. That's bad. Well, it turns out that that's helping us point out holes in the rules and new stuff that we didn't know was there. It's basically saying, I did this because it's undefined, so I don't know what to do with it. There aren't any rules around this, which is pretty cool. So then there's the last fun thing right now that's coming out is the marketplace. And what that does is it takes your genetic profile of your animal and it directs you to resources that are specifically designed for that animal's genetic profile. In other words, if your dog has medication sensitivity, it'll say, hey, don't use these flea and tick products because they contain this ingredient that is known to cause seizures in these animals with this gene. Or it might say, your animal has this variant here. Whatever you do, don't buy into the grain-free diet because you don't want to feed this dog grain-free.
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do now is turn it around to the horse. So let's say you've got an animal with PSSM, or it's a quarter horse high performer. You might want this feed over that feed because you need more protein or you need less protein, right?
Yeah.
So all of these things are what we're trying to put together. But the marketplace is super unique because we want what clients prefer. So we're not just plugging in whatever.
Yeah.
If, say, our people who have barking schnauzers say that this color works really great for my schnauzers to make them stop barking all the time, but don't even think about using it on your border collie, that is helpful information. Right? So we lean on the client's experience and preferences to define the recommendations we provide in accordance with the DNA and what's been tested and proven to work.
Yep. And with this marketplace, when you are recommending what products they do or don't use, are you going to partner with different brands?
That's the idea.
Products?
Yeah, okay. We want to partner with brands, but we're going to be super picky about who we partner with. Like, it doesn't matter what you say about your product. If your clients don't say that and our clients don't say that, sorry.
Yeah.
And on another level with that too, if it's something that is related to, deeper than which toy to go for or what could calm your animal down or things like that, we have a group of veterinarians that are putting their input and their eyes on everything as well. So if it is something medication related, dietary related, a little bit deeper below the surface there, then we have that veterinary panel that's coming in and making sure that we're putting additional science and expertise behind it as well.
Yeah. And we have some partnerships that are longstanding. Some of them are newer. Dr. Ben Buchanan, Dr. Charlie Buchanan, Dr. Bill Whitaker on the horse side. They're wonderful. Scott McClure is amazing. We've got some pretty spectacular equine vets that we lean on pretty heavily. And in the dog space, there are some key trainers, some vets there as well. One of our big partners right now is Pet Meds because we like their model. And they are offering you can see that our kits are there, but what's cool is they're in with us on the let's match this stuff so that it works really, really well. So we're growing some things there. We're actively looking for couture feeds and products, like really cool bling collars and halters and particularly well-fitted saddles, right? Because those are really important and such a nightmare to get. And maybe like raw feeds for dogs or specialized things that are proven. We know where they came from and the clients swear by them. So those are some of the things we're looking for.
And then on the horse side with the marketplace, are you also going to offer for horse trainers, well-known horse trainers to come in and be like, okay, well, his genetic testing is more vigilant, like say little tips of how to calm them if they're feeling a little hot or something?
Yeah, absolutely. We even can potentially recommend if you come in as a horse person and you say, I am training this horse reining, and here's my genetic profile, and here's my area. If we do this right, it will point you to trainers that can help you with that particular horse. So it's all about matching well, right?
No, it's really good. Love it. I love how you're kind of collaborating and using this genetic testing for the industry. Really good.
Yeah, well, everyone wins, right?
Yes.
I mean, nobody wants to, speaking from behalf of the clients, Nobody wants to go with a trainer they don't match with because that is such a headache and it's hard to untangle. And from the trainer point of view, they don't want that client. So let's match them with the right clients and horses together and that make everybody happier. It's a win-win.
Yeah. Win-win for everybody. And that's
Yeah.
what we all want in the equine industry. So
So true.
yes. All right. So with everything we talked about today, and I have learned so much more, is there any other topics or anything we didn't talk about that you want to share with people? Laura is waving her hands.
I will defer.
Yeah. So I'm gonna send it back over to Christa in a minute, but I want to circle back on that ultimate color package.
Yeah.
Because like Christa mentioned, it's going to be a limited time offer in the month of July. We don't know how long that limited time offer is going to run, but we saw this phenomenal response to Roan in general and an international level of response to Roan that came along with this. So we're actually going to be launching some new landing pages for everyone listening in Dutch, German, French, Portuguese, and Spanish in the beginning of July. And that ultimate color package will include Roan 1 through 3 as well. So that's the part I want to talk about because I'm super excited about it.
Fun. No, I love it. Is there anything else, any other topics that you wanted to talk about, Christa? Or wanted to share?
I think that there are tons of things to talk about, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could probably figure out what your listeners want to talk about and come back to the podcasting table with it. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff we could talk about. Cloning and genetic editing and, artificial intelligence. And
there's
all this,
so much.
there's just like, sky's the limit.
Yep. I definitely am always kind of been a nerd about genetics too. That was always my favorite thing to talk about in my biology class. So, and it was the one thing in science that I fully understood.
That's very cool because it's not super easy, right? That's why we're gainfully employed making all these very simplification tools for people to understand so they can spend more time in the saddle because it's a lot.
Yes, exactly. All right, so I asked you this question on the last episode, but if you had anything else to add to it, how would you define an educated cowgirl in your own words?
She is filled with passion and joy and curiosity and grit, not necessarily in that order. Loves to learn and explore. And most importantly, I'm always going to say a really good educated cowgirl is good with saying, I don't know, but I'm going to go find out.
Perfect. Laura, did you want to add anything?
Christa kind of nailed it. I'm just going to put that out there. Like that, I mean, that is the best summary. If to put it in my own words, a forever learner who's always trying to do the best by her horse and herself.
Love it.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. So fun rapid fire questions. What is your favorite way to relax or unwind after a long week?
Do I have limitations on where I can be or what I can do?
No.
Okay, so I'm torn. I prefer a really excellent scuba dive somewhere exotic, if possible. I know it hardly ever happens, but when it does, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Or flopping in my fluffy bed, grabbing my shepherd by the back of the neck, flopping her over next to me, and just cuddling and binging on Netflix. She loves to cuddle, and I love that she loves to cuddle.
Yeah. No, I would. Those those Netflix binging sessions, they kind of sometimes they heal you. There obviously comes a point where you watch too much, but if you just need like a break, like I don't want to think about anything.
Yeah, well, sometimes I'll stumble on stuff like, oh, I didn't know they had more seasons of The Last Cowboy. That's kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
I like to binge also on like the Cowboy Channel, and really, my dog likes to lay on her back in the crook of my arm. She's 60 pounds. It's not pretty, but there's just like this satisfaction in burying my fingers in her scruffy fur all around her neck and just aimlessly watching shows and hanging out. Like it's just everything's better.
Yeah.
Fair. I would probably go with on the end of a lead line, which is not where I get to be often enough, to be honest. So hanging out with, I have a retired racer who I've retrained, two brood mares, and I have a baby on the ground. So in some combination of surrounded by them, but I also have an almost 5-month-old Labrador Retriever puppy who's amazing.
So
and love him so much. He also loves the horses. So watching him now literally like go over and just start licking our mares' faces in the paddock is great. So some combination of all of that. And if not that, literally in bed binge watching anything on Netflix or Hulu. Like it just happens. It's inevitable.
Yeah. We all do it. Don't judge. We all do it.
We all do it.
Yeah.
With ice cream.
Yes.
I mean, I like to start that whole deal off with a tray in bed, prime rib, and French fries before the floppage happens.
That's solid.
Just saying.
I support it.
This is fantasy, right? We're allowed to do this?
Yeah.
Okay.
These are just fun questions. All right. Speaking of dessert and ice cream, next question. If you could only eat one dessert for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oof. Banana pudding. Heavy on the vanilla wafers. The bananas are kind of there for, a statement.
Yeah.
Any cake that's 30% cake and 70% frosting.
Oh, yeah. Mm.
Oh, yeah.
Mm.
That's a life choice right there. Yep, that's definitely.
Yeah. All right. So we talked about roan horses today, but what is your favorite horse color and why?
Black. I like a really super shiny black stud. I like a little bling, white blaze, diamonds, some socks. That works for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going with black, straight up.
I'm a sucker for a chestnut gelding.
Okay. I almost thought you were going to say chestnut mare. But
well, so here's the irony, okay? Here's the irony. The first horse I ever planned and delivered when I was 13 was a fiery chestnut colt who became a gelding. He was my heart horse, and there's always something about that. After his passing, I have transitioned into the bay mare land. Now I own all bay mares as my retired pleasure horses, and I'm like, okay, well, apparently that was a transitional point in my life. But no, I think I identify as the chestnut mare at my core, so I have to have balance, right? I need the bay mare to balance me out now.
Yeah. Well, my Palomino mare is due next year and we bred her to a black Tobiano, and so it's possible it'll be a buckskin little paint. So,
if you run her through Build-A-Horse, you'll know exactly what your probabilities are.
Yeah. Yep. All right. So, because of when this episode will come out, what is your favorite activity to do on 4th of July weekend?
This is totally not pet friendly.
That's okay.
I may or may not be that person that should never have bottle rockets, ever.
Oh my goodness.
I've been known to do really stupid things with bottle rockets, GI Joes, parachutes, throwing stuff. There's usually a lake involved because I really don't want to burn stuff down.
Yeah.
Alternatively, I'm happy laying on a blanket, face up, underneath the big ones at the fairground.
Love it.
I love the boom. I love everything about it. I should not be allowed to play with fireworks.
Okay. I also should not be allowed to play with fireworks. I do love fireworks. And I wait an entire fireworks show for the two kinds that are my favorite are the ones that pop and then they do the
those are great.
With the little spirals.
Yes.
The ones that pop and then they crackle like pop rocks in your mouth and you feel the whole vibration through your body. And yes, so that.
Yes.
For me, it's not a blanket, it's our downtown area. But it's so ever since I was a little girl, those two fireworks, I just wait the whole time for this.
Yeah.
They're literally the bomb.
Yes.
Literally the bomb.
Sorry.
Exactly.
Yes.
It's fine.
But but my favorite fireworks show I've probably ever seen was Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Theirs is gorgeous. They their show is right after they're done with the rodeo, which best pro rodeo. If you ever go to the Steamboat Rodeo, it's the best. And they turn off all the arena lights when everyone leaves, and then they just shoot them off right over the mountain. It's so cool.
So cool.
My God. No, there's not that. So the places that I remember from childhood, Boulder County Fairgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
Loved them. They did a show. It was just magic.
Yeah. All right. This has been so fun. Thank you again for thinking of me to share this research and this talk about Roan horses. If people want to find out more about the Roan Discovery Research or the July promo, where can they do that?
So they can head over to etalondx.com, right onto the website. They can also check out Facebook or Instagram. We'll be running the July promos there as well. We have links to our Roan blog in both places. And then we have some frequently asked questions being answered on social media as well, in addition to the website. We always encourage everyone, if you have any questions, send us a DM, pop up a comment. Our teams are here. Our team members are here. We're happy to help. We're happy to answer questions. And as Christa said earlier, we want to know what you want to know, so that we can continue researching and having more conversations like this.
Can we put a link to her podcast in our blog, in the Roan blog?
Yeah,
absolutely can. Yes.
Yeah. Put it right at the top. Too lazy to read? Here you go.
Yeah. No, perfect. All right. Thank you, guys.
Fabulous. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you so much. Have an awesome 4th of July.
Yeah. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Educated Cowgirl. I hope you enjoyed it, learned something new, and will come back for more. In the meantime, if you would like to continue to support the show, make sure you hit that follow button on whichever platform you're listening on, follow me on social media, and make sure to leave me a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you really want to share the podcast, make sure you tag me in your Instagram stories at The Educated Cowgirl. But for now, stay blessed and ride on, cowgirls.